My name is Sarah Rudder. I am a Marine Corps veteran, and right now I currently volunteer for a nonprofit providing fitness education and training to combat wounded vets. And right now I'm in charge of the CrossFit program. So any veteran, combat wounded veteran who's interested in CrossFit comes to me and I'll hook them up. So 9/11 for me was not just a day that's going to come as just a 20th anniversary for somebody. For me, unfortunately, that sticks with me for life. When I had just turned 18 years old, and I was being promoted on September 11, 2001, and I had just actually returned to my base, headquarters Marine Corps, about 10 days prior to that, because I was in an auto accident where I was airlifted and I broke my nose, my rib, my scapula, and developed a brain injury. So I still had a sling on during my promotion ceremony. During that ceremony, it was supposed to be, a happy day and to gain more responsibility within the Marine Corps. And upon exiting, we found out that the trade center had been hit, and we didn't know at that time because we were in the middle of the promotion ceremony. So we didn't find out till after. And once we found out, we were all out discussing, how crazy it was that the trade center had just got hit. And after discussing, and I returned to my room, put down my promotion certificate, and was making my way down, and it was just all of a sudden the ground shook, and it was like a big explosion up in the sky. At first I thought it was an earthquake, but once I stood up and I could see the smoke in the sky, we could see that it was coming from the Pentagon. And immediately I threw off my brace, and all of us ran immediately down the hill to the Pentagon. When we arrived, there were people coming out and screaming and all different injuries. And at that point, we just immediately started separating them and assessing them on their injuries. And if they had minor injuries, sutures, and things like that, we transported them to the base, where we provided, corpsmen provided care for them on the basketball courts. So I was there all day during the day, and then at night I had to stand watch. Everybody had to stand a 12-hour watch because we didn't know exactly what was going on, if we were going to be hit again. Reporters and civilians constantly trying to get on base to find answers that we didn't have. Once my shift was over, I returned back to the Pentagon and aided in as much as I could. Once the fire was out, we were able to enter the Pentagon later that afternoon. And when we entered the Pentagon, one of my duties was to remove those who did not survive. And I had a prior minor training accident on my left ankle already, but it was pretty much healed, and then my other injuries I still had. But when I was removing a non-survivor, I stepped into a hole and concrete came over the top, and I crushed my left ankle. After that, I honestly didn't know I had crushed it, and I continued for 24 hours pulling non-survivors. I was medically discharged, and for me, I felt my purpose was gone, because all I knew I wanted to do was be a Marine since I was 12. And I didn't have a backup plan at that point. So for me, trying to find a purpose and trying to find out and figure out what was going on inside my head that I didn't understand was something that I had to cope with until I was ready to deal with. So I remember going to an air show when they still had them up in Tustin, and I remember walking around the air show, and then everyone was standing around the bleachers, and it got real quiet. And all of a sudden, the silent drill team had come out, and they were performing. And all I can remember is you can hear the slapping of the rifle and the stomping of their feet all in sync. And I looked at them in awe, and I just remembered that I want that for myself. And at 12, I knew that right then and there that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a Marine. I wanted to be part of what they were. And my mother kind of brushed me off at first and was like, okay. And every single year I didn't change my answer. I still want to be a Marine. And she told me that if I still wanted to be a Marine by the time I graduated high school, that she would support me. And at 17 years old, she held up and she signed, and I enlisted in the Marine Corps. I think being Marine changed me as a whole, but in a good way, because it broke me down to someone that I needed to be. I needed to be stronger. I needed to be more vocal. I needed to take charge. And I was able to do that being a Marine. I met some of the best people in my life right now to this day that were from the Marine Corps. And I knew that there was something special, that we had always had each other's back no matter what. And having that sense of security in the Marine Corps was very important to me. And getting out of the Marine Corps, it was definitely difficult because I didn't have my purpose, and I didn't understand what TBI or PTSD or any of that was. I just thought how it was behaving was normal for someone who is young, and that was a Marine. And I think finally my husband pointed out that, you know, you should see someone or talk to someone about it. And it was time to let that pride and that barrier down in order to fix myself, because I couldn't help anyone else if I didn't help myself. And I think having the strength from the Marine Corps gave me those boundaries, or those fundamental stepping stones that I needed to build myself back up again. And having that, I found my purpose, but because I was able to acknowledge and accept and treat who I had become, and my purpose was to help those understand that they still have that in them too. We just need to find what the purpose is. And once you find that purpose again, it gave me a reason to live. I think at that new promotion, it didn't even really set in. It was like this occurred, this huge moment for me just occurred. I'm moving on up, and then within seconds, it was gone. It was more of helping and responding to whoever needed help, regardless of who was there to help and what rank they were. We were all there for the same purpose. So for me, having that extra, stripe was not as important at that time. It wasn't until the next day, honestly. I kept going on it continuously. And once I returned to my barracks room and sat down for the first time is when all the pain set in, and I realized that I couldn't take my boot off because it was pretty much holding my leg together. So after receiving treatment and being on crutches, and I had probably over 13 surgeries, 4 leg reconstructive surgeries, rods, plates, screws, taken in and out twice, my Achilles, my knee. After fighting with all of that, trying to save the leg, I developed nerve damage, which started to spread up the leg. And at that point, I was given 2 options. You can put a rod hip to ankle, or you can amputate. And that was a quick answer for me: amputate. So I went ahead and amputated in 2014. And again, that Marine in me knew that this wasn't gonna define who I was. It was gonna give me a purpose to move on in life. I would say 9/11 has impacted me in more ways than I can even explain. For me, I always live with the guilt of still living. Looking at all those people who didn't make it, and yet I'm still here. It's a hard cup of tea to deal with sometimes. But I think that's also why I'm here, because it's given me a purpose to live for those who can't any longer. So we continue to fight for them. We fight for the ones who couldn't make it, the ones who couldn't make it back home. We continue to fight for them and ensure that us coming home, there was a reason for us coming home, and we need to continue their legacy because of this day. And this day will forever mark the strength, I think, that America and our military have to know that we never gave up. 20 years we've been fighting, and we've reached our goal, and we've brought our men and women home. And to honor all of them that continued the fight from September 11th until yesterday, it's just, for me, it's just continue to live.